Okay, let's talk about audiences and specifically custom audiences. I'm here in Ads Manager, and to get to audiences, I go to the menu there and audiences. I already have some audiences created, so if you don't have any, yours will look blank, but that's okay. I'm going to show you how to create them and a couple different options for creating audiences. And you'll need to do this if you want to do any retargeting. You'll also want to do this if you want to create what's called lookalike audiences. I'm going to start with lookalike audiences. Lookalike audiences are essentially when you create an ad and set up your audience that you want the ad to show to, you're choosing the types of characters you want your ideal client or the people viewing the ad to have, so hopefully they match your ideal client. So when you put that information out there, those are the people that see it. However, there might be more people out there on Facebook who are similar to the people who would interact with that ad, whether it's watch a video or click on a blog post, that maybe don't fall perfectly into your ideal client profile that you profiled when you set up your audience. So lookalike audiences is a great way to say, hey, Facebook, find me more people like the people who went to this blog post or watched a percentage of this video. So it's a great way to tap into new audiences that you may not have necessarily been able to find by just profiling them when you set up your ad set. So the way that you do that, for example, I have an ad set right now, or an audience set right now, and I'll show you how to do this as well, for people who watch 25% of a video that I made. It hasn't been running long, so the audience size isn't too big. But that's okay, this will work for this example. So what I'm gonna do is go to the little dots there and create lookalike. And from there, you have to select the location. Usually you can only select by country. You can narrow it further later on, and I'll kind of show you what I mean here. So this selects your audience size, and this chooses how similar the audience will be to your original audience that you chose. I always like to choose about 1% because I want it to be pretty similar. But if you're not having much luck with that, you could always try expanding it. So that means that the more you expand it, the more differences there will be between your original audience and the audience it's creating for you, and the larger it will be, and the smaller your percentage you're choosing, the closer it will resemble, and also the smaller it will be. So from there, I would hit create audience. I'm not going to create this lookalike audience because I don't necessarily need it. Once I do that, it'll usually say that it's populating, and when it's ready, it'll say that it's ready. It'll usually say that it's somewhere around 2 million people if you use 1%, larger if you use a larger percentage. And if you don't want your ideal audience to be that size, which for most local businesses you certainly do not, what you would do would be say, this is a lookalike audience I created some time ago off of website visitors. So I would choose this one, and then I would do create ad, and then from there it would take me to the campaign level where I would select my campaign type, and then it would take me to my ad set level where I would refine my audience, and there you would narrow down your audience based on location. So you weren't targeting all 3 million people that are similar to your original audience within the United States, because if you're a local business, that's not going to help you. So you can then pare it down in the actual ad creation process. So that's how you create lookalike videos. How you create custom audiences would be create audience, custom audience. And on the window that shows up, you can do it based on a few different things. You can do it based on website traffic. So if you can choose people who visited a specific blog post or a specific web page, people who have watched certain percentages of a video, people that have interacted with your Instagram and Facebook accounts, gone to your events, opened an instant experience type ad, which I showed you in the ad creation option, or like interacted with a lead form of some sort. So you can basically create audiences of people who have interacted with you in some way. I really like website traffic and the video view ones as well, especially if I'm doing retargeting. So for example, if I wanted to retarget people who watched a certain percentage of a video, I like 25%. And from there, once I have my percentage chosen, I can choose the video I want. I'm just gonna grab this video, this is one of mine. And then I would hit confirm. And this is how many people have watched the video in a certain amount of time. So you can do it in the last 365 days or in a shorter amount of time, depending on what your goal is. I usually go with 365. I don't do too many time-sensitive funnels, so it's not as relevant to me to necessarily pare it down to a certain time period. So I generally just stick with 365, so the audience is as large as it can be. And then from there, name it whatever you need to name it so it makes the best sense to you. I'm not going to create that audience because I believe I already have that audience here, and that's one of the audiences I showed you for an example. So same thing to create a custom audience from someone who visited a blog post. From here, you would say, if you wanted to do a specific page, you would do people who visited a specific page. You can do a max of 180 days. Like I said before, I don't usually do too many things that are super time sensitive, so 180 days is fine with me. If I wanted to do like my main website, the only thing you want to make sure if you're targeting specific web pages and URLs is that you do not add this ahead of the URL because sometimes it can mess with things. So make sure to leave that part off. And then from there, you name the audience. And that would be how you create it. I'm not going to create that audience right now. So I have one right here created. This is anyone who has visited my website in the past 180 days. Now I do something very specific, so I don't have that many website visitors because I have a very niche business with my main business. So that's why that audience for me is relatively small, but that's exactly how I set it up. All website visitors that interacted with my pixel 180 days. So then what you would do if you wanted to retarget anyone who's visited that blog post, same thing as before, you would choose whichever audience you wanted to work with and then there create ad. Now, one thing to note, if the audience is too small, it will say it's too small, which means that you can't use it. If it's still relatively small but can still be used, usually I'll say below 1,000, and you can still use that. You won't need as much of an ad spend budget because you don't have that many people you're trying to hit. And then from there, it goes up from there. So if you're wanting to create a retargeting audience and you're always getting a really small audience size, like a below 1,000, and you want more, the thing you have to do then is put more money into the thing you're trying to create a custom audience from. So for example, this one says that it's below 1,000 of people who watch 25% of a certain video that I have running as an ad. If I want that number to be greater, the best way that I can do that is put more money into the ad that's running that video. Then that audience size will get larger. So that's a rough overview of how audiences work and lookalike audiences and custom audiences, which you need then for creating your sales funnels and then creating your retargeting, whether it's retargeting certain people who've watched a certain percentage of the video, people who visited a blog post, and so on. You get the idea. So that's how to work with audiences.